So thank you very much for attending my talk on the five remembrances. My name is Alpesh Parekh. I also go by Al, and my pronouns are his and him. Um, I come to you from Portland, Oregon, USA. I acknowledge the land on which we sit and which we occupy here in Portland, Oregon. The Portland metro area rests on traditional village sites of the Multnomah, Wasco, Cowlitz, Cathlamet, Clackamas, bands of Chinook, Tualatin, Kalapuya, Mulala, and many other tribes who made their homes alongside the Columbia River, and they created communities and summer encampments to harvest and use the plentiful natural resources of this area. So I humbly acknowledge uh, the land that has been, that we are using right now. So, talking about the five remembrances, one of the many beauties of Buddha's teachings is that all his teachings and in all his subjects are actually intertwined. They are like fractals, where a part of the teachings contains the enormity of all his teachings, so to speak, and they are all uh, linked together. So, for example, there is a sutta called Bhai Bhairava Sutta. It's not very popular for some reason, but it's also called Fear and Dread. So, there were some bhikkhus who went to Buddha and they said that, sir, we would like to go into the forest, live in seclusion, and meditate. But we are filled with fear and dread. We are afraid that some harm might come to us, and we won't be able to pursue our goals. So the Buddha replied, and he listed many different mental states that give rise to fear and dread. So he said, Bhikkhus, if you have sensual desire within you, that will lead to fear and dread. If you have ill will in your heart, that will lead to fear and dread. If you have sloth and torpor, that will lead to fear and dread. So essentially, he listed the five hindrances in his answer to this question about fear and dread. And then he talked about loving kindness and compassion and joy and equanimity. So he said that if you are able to extinguish these hindrances and if you're able to cultivate these Brahma Viharas, then there will not be even a trace of fear and dread in you when you go out into the forest to meditate. You see, so this sutta is a great example where he combines concepts and ideas and nuggets of wisdom into one answer. Uh, so, coming back to the five remembrances, right? Five remembrances within themselves, they encapsulate Buddha's teachings on the three marks of existence. The three marks of existence being anicca, anatta, dukkha, that everything is impermanent, that there is suffering, and that there is a not self aspect to all phenomena. The five remembrances are a set of teachings that are meant to help practitioners reflect on the impermanence of life and to cultivate an appreciation for the present moment. So that is the main goal of these teachings on five remembrances, but as you reflect on them, as you contemplate and meditate on them, you realize that they also have within them, you know, the seeds of the other two marks of existence. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to list each one of them. I'll expand on each one of them. And then after the end of my talk, I would love to have a Q&A. If you have any questions, I would love to answer them. So, uh, these five remembrances, right, are very short, very pithy uh, statements, quotations that are meant to be recited, or meditated upon or reflected upon by monks as well as lay people. And as I said, when you do it, you end up cultivating appreciation for the present moment because you realize that everything is changing. We cannot take anything for granted. So the first remembrance is, um, I am of the nature to grow old. There is no way to escape growing old. Within this remembrance, nature of growing old, no way to escape growing old, you immediately see now impermanence, right? We might be youthful at this point in time, but we are growing old. And if you're already old, then we are going to get older. And the only way to escape growing old is to die young. And none of us want to go that route, correct? So it is something that we have to kind of accept the inevitability of change, the impermanent nature of our physical bodies, and abide in that change. So when we reflect, I am of the nature to grow old. There is no way to escape growing old. A lot of things can kind of come up, and the idea is that you have this still pond, a pond or lake with still water, and you throw a pebble, right? Because the water is still, the pebble will grow deep. It'll go deep, and it'll dislodge things in water. So the idea is that we need to keep our minds calm. We need to still our minds and then reflect on these remembrances and see what stirs up, see what comes up for us when we reflect and contemplate on this remembrance, right? Um, and also it's recommended that we do this practice internally and externally. So I am of the nature to grow old. It also means that people that I love, people that surround me, they are also growing old. And there is no way for them to escape growing old as well. So that is the first remembrance. Now, each, so out of the five remembrance, the first four remembrance, they remove certain conceit within themselves. Those conceits are like default assumptions that we make about ourselves, right? And so the first remembrance overcomes the conceit of youth, energy, and vitality. We, when we are youthful, when we have energy, when we have vitality, we just assume that yes, we'll be in this state forever. But the fact is that no, there will be a time when we will lose our energy and our vitality. So the first remembrance overcomes this conceit of youth, energy, vitality. The second remembrance states, I am of the nature to have ill health. There is no way to escape having ill health. Now, you know, it's a miracle that our bodies continue to survive despite everything that we put on it, all the stresses and strains that we put on our bodies. And this is also relevant in our post-COVID environment We all knew during COVID how fleeting our health was, how fleeting our lives were, where if we caught the infection, we were in for the long haul, you see. So, this remembrance talks about ill health. There is no way to escape having ill health. And these problems are compounded by the fact that once we do get medical treatment, we also have to worry about bills. We also have to worry about all other things that happen or don't happen to us simply because we are ill and not well. You see? So, this remembrance removes or overcomes the conceit of good health and the feeling of being invincible. When we are healthy, when we are young, we feel that yes, we are invincible and nothing can happen to us, right? But the fact is that, as we grow older, or even if we don't grow old, even if we are young, we are bound to fall prey to ill health. And here, ill health also means uh, the times when we get stricken by by accident, for example, when we get hurt, and then we have to nurse ourselves back to health, right? So it's very funny. A couple of months ago, I was giving this talk, the very same talk on five remembrances, and I wanted to bring a small table from the living room up into my room, uh, to sit to place it right next to me. Now that table had a glass cover, and the glass cover was not actually attached to the table. And I didn't realize it. I lifted the table, and the moment I tilted the table, the whole glass sheet fell on my leg. And it hurt a lot. Oh my god, it hurt a lot. And the funny thing was, I was thinking about the five remembrances, when I got hurt. So that's when this light bulb went off in my head that yes, when we talk about ill health, we also take into account these accidents that happen to us where we kind of get hurt. There is no way to escape from these kind of incidents. Uh, Now, the third remembrance, oh, I'm sorry, coming back to remembrance too, when we talk about having inner health, implicit within this remembrance is the concept of dukkha. You see, ill health directly means suffering. When we have ill health, we suffer. When I got hurt, when the glass sheet fell on my leg, I mean, I was suffering. I was suffering badly for a couple of hours actually. So you see this element of dukkha, one of the marks of existence coming into picture, coming into play when we reflect on this remembrance. We also see the third mark of existence, anatta, the not self aspect of phenomena coming into play. Because when we have bouts of ill health, we really don't want the ill health, right? We want to be healthy. We want to be active and productive and energetic all the time. But these things happen despite our sense of self, our fixed, solid sense of self. So, in this remembrance, I am of the nature to have ill health. You have within it all the three marks of existence, anicca, anatta, and dukkha. The third remembrance, I am of the nature to die. There is no way to escape death. So, this focuses explicitly on our mortality. This is all about anicca, about impermanence, impermanent nature of all phenomena, including our lives. This reflection is much more challenging than the first two reflections because, yes, I'm the first two reflections, the nature of growing old, nature to have ill health, we have all experienced it, but we have never experienced our own death, you see. So it's a bit more challenging to contemplate and to reflect than the first two remembrances. But we do know other people dying around us. You see, we know the shock and the grief and the trauma that happens when somebody in our family or someone in our social circle dies unexpectedly, right? So that is so when we contemplate on this remembrance, it's helpful to bring other people into this mix, simply because if I am of the nature to die, right, it's true for everybody, right? Everybody has that nature to die, and nobody is going to escape death. You see? So this third remembrance focuses exclusively on kind of anicca, and of course dukkha also, because uh, death cause it causes suffering, right? Um, and this this message about death is again not exclusive to Buddhist philosophy. A lot of other uh, religions and a lot of other philosophies talk about death. So, for example, the native Indian shamanic philosophy also focuses on death, actually. Carlos Castaneda, for example, right? He was a Peruvian born anthropologist, uh, and his teachings were based on his personal experiences, right? And a lot of them were about the inevitability of life. So he said that death is the only wise advisor that we will ever have. You know. Now the fourth, I'm sorry, coming back to the third remembrance, within the context of Buddhist teachings, this third remembrance overcomes the conceit of being alive and the deluded notion that we will never die. So it completely overcomes this conceit. Now, the fourth remembrance, all that is dear to me and everyone I love are of the nature to change. There is no way to escape being separated from them. So, in this remembrance, um, it is a logical progression from the first three remembrances, right? All that is dear to me and everyone I love are of the nature to change, in the sense that everyone I love, they are going to grow old, they are going to have ill health, they are going to die. You see, um, there is no way to escape from them. So, this remembrance has the seed of anatta in it, the not self aspect of all phenomena. Because, see, if I was self, if I was in complete control of everything, there is no way that my loved ones around me would change, right? There is no way that my loved ones around me would die. But the fact is that they do change. The fact is that they do die in spite of my sense of self. So, again, within this remembrance, you have the seed of anatta embedded in this reflection and in this contemplation. And this remembrance, it overcomes the conceit of taking others for granted. It weakens and overcomes lust for material pleasure, and at the same time give our hearts a sense of generosity. The fifth remembrance, my actions are my only true belongings. I cannot escape the consequences of my actions. My actions are the ground on which I stand. So, you see, the first four remembrances had a kind of negative tone, a tone about suffering and death and ill health. But the fifth remembrance is very, very energizing. It's very, very inspiring. The idea is that when you focus on these four remembrances, the first four, so what should we do, right? The answer is that our actions are our only true belongings. Everything will fall away. We will have old age, we will die. The only thing that will remain are the consequences of our actions. So this remembrance energizes us, motivates us to lead a wholesome life, and to lead a life where we are contemplating these teachings, and we are staying awake and open to everything that is around us. So at the end of the day, these five remembrances have a very, very positive, very, very energizing feel to it. And when you do this remembrance, right, it should fill you with joy. It should fill you with loving kindness and appreciation of, of the present moment. So, just want to briefly talk about the advantages and the benefits that accrue from this practice, right? So, daily practicing these remembrances, reflecting on these remembrances, will cultivate loving kindness and compassion in us, right? You know, it's very automatic, right? We also end up cultivating gratitude. We are grateful for everything that we have today, knowing fully well that we don't know if these things will remain with us tomorrow or not. It allows us to cultivate emotional resilience. When we know that things are changing, it helps us be it helps us be stronger because we are prepared for changes, right? Um, it is a motivation for positive action. By positive, I mean positive, wholesome action that benefits ourselves and others as well. And it empowers us, it inspires us to practice mindfulness, because mindfulness means we are being in the present moment, understanding and observing these changes as they happen to us. You see, and of course, the last benefit is acceptance of death. As we grow older, right, we have fear of death, irrational fear of death. That, oh my God, one day, I'll die. But when you accept the fact that it's inevitable, right, it allows us to be stronger. It allows us to be calmer, more peaceful, and it allows us to take wise actions that benefit not just us but everybody around us. So, thank you for listening to my talk. I hope you found my talk helpful. I hope it energizes you to do this practice. So, I'll be happy to take any questions that you might have.